Hello and welcome to Brewers Daily, part of the Fan Arch Podcast Network. I'm your host, Dave Gasper. Lots to get to here on a Wednesday show. We got to talk about a potential Bryce Turang extension. My good friend Kurt Hogue had an article up on that at the Journal Sentinel, so we'll talk about that. Also, we got to talk about this series here against the Tigers and the beatdown that the Brewers provided over the Tigers on Tuesday night. So this is exactly what you wanted to see, that offense that had been slumping for a while there during that 6-game losing streak. Then they finally, start winning a couple of games, but the offense still really wasn't humming all that well. And then you break out here with a massive 12-4 win over the Tigers. You end up batting around in this game as well. You put up 7 runs in the 8th inning. Just a phenomenal performance from this group. Contributions up and down the lineup. Everyone in the starting lineup had a base hit in this game. Bryce Turang, 2 for 5, 4 RBIs. Big game for him. William Contreras, 2 for 5. Jake Bauers, 2 for 5. Garrett Mitchell, 2 for 4. Gary Sanchez with a triple in this game. That just boggles the mind, doesn't it? Gary Sanchez with a triple. The 4th of his career, and he's been around for a while. It took an angled bounce off the wall for it to get by Javier Baez, old friend Javier Baez, and that allowed Gary Sanchez to get to third base. And then following that immediately, Garrett Mitchell triples off a lefty, which is almost probably as impressive as Gary Sanchez having a triple in its own right. I mean, Sanchez having the speed to get there. And having the oxygen to get there. But then Garrett Mitchell, against a lefty, is able to turn on a baseball, pull it into the right field corner, and get a triple himself. They timed the home to thirds for both of those guys. Mitchell was like 2.5 seconds faster than Gary Sanchez. I mean, he was to second base. I mean, by the time Gary Sanchez was just barely past rounding first. I mean, it was ridiculous. I mean, Garrett Mitchell getting a triple, that's not really a surprise to anyone. You tell me that happens, I'm like, yeah, okay, I can see it. Gary Sanchez getting a triple, something has to have gone horribly wrong, and it did there for the Tigers. A lot of things went wrong for the Tigers in this game. A bunch of misplays for them. They had an error in there, and some other plays where it's like, yeah, you could maybe give them one also. But yeah, you get contributions from the group. David Hamilton, a 4-hit game, goes 4 for 5, scores twice. Very strong performance for Hamilton. Because of this 4-hit game, this is a guy who was, as we kind of just previously talked about on one of the shows this week, that has been slumping to start the season. David Hamilton, he is now hitting 240 on the year after his 4 for 5 performance here on Tuesday. So it can take a game like that to snap you out of a slump to get your season numbers back up really quickly. So you love to see that for the group. 16 hits in total for the Brewers in this game. So you absolutely love to see that. The bats were working, and that helps you get out to a nice, comfortable lead. You can rest your A bullpen, and that's really a big thing because this group has been taxed. They've been tired a little bit, and that way you can have Jake Woodford pitch the final 2 innings, get you through it, give up a couple of runs there in the 9th, but still you can save some of your top bullpen guys from having to pitch in a close game because you end up able to blow out the Detroit Tigers. And it's especially important when your starting pitcher only goes 3 innings, which is what Kyle Harrison did on Tuesday here. So he lasted just 3+ innings. They tried to get him through the 4th. He loaded the bases without getting an out in the 4th inning, and that's when Pat Murphy had to go to his bullpen, brought in Grant Anderson. So he also had his pitch count up there as well. He was in the 70s with his pitch count, which is pretty high for just being in the 4th inning there. That's not really what you want to see. He ends up with 72 pitches, 39 strikes in this one. And for Harrison, he didn't allow a run through those 3 innings, but obviously loaded the bases, nobody out. Grant Anderson has to come in. Javier Baez at the plate, swings at the first pitch, which is out of the strike zone, and immediately grounds into a double play. which is just so Javi Baez. It's just so perfect. You concede the run there. It's like, okay, that's fine, but you got 2 outs. And Anderson ended up getting out of the inning just fine after that, which was great. So Anderson ended up going 2 innings, gets the win. You get Trevor McGill in the 6th inning there, which was interesting. But Kyle Harrison just going 3 innings, you could look at that. Is that potentially concerning here for Harrison? Because he did basically get his last turn kind of skipped, get pushed back a couple of days here, dealing with that wrist issue. So Pat Murphy did say before the game that it's going to be a pretty short leash for Harrison as they try and get him going after that. So this wasn't necessarily a surprise that once he got into trouble there in the 4th inning, the pitch count was getting up there through the first couple. It'd be time to pull him there. Does put you in a tough spot with the bullpen, but they did just have an off day yesterday. So that does make things a little bit easier for them to know that, like, okay, the bullpen should be fairly rested here. And they still were able to avoid using Angel Serpa in this game, avoid Abner Uribe. We still got Aaron Ashby for an inning. We still got McGill. We still got Grant Anderson. So Anderson and Ashby, who have been in seemingly every single game this year, they still get in this one. But to have to cover 6 innings out of that bullpen, to get 2 from Anderson and 2 from Jake Woodford, I think that was huge for this group. Yeah, so Kyle Harrison, not overly concerned with him only just lasting 3 innings because, again, as Murph said, it was going to be a short leash with that wrist. We'll see how he recovers after this, and hopefully, it should be getting stretched out, and he should be getting a little bit longer leash the next time that he's back out there on the mound. You can afford it for this game, but now for the next game and the next couple of games after that, it's going to be a little bit tougher to afford that. So when you got your next guys coming up here with Chad Patrick and Brandon Sproat to finish out this series, you're going to be looking for a little bit more length from those guys. All right, also a moment that happened in this game to talk about Blake Perkins. We talked about, Kyle Harrison and the pitching staff doing its job to keep the Tigers' offense tame. Blake Perkins robbed, I believe it was Jahmai Jones, of a home run in the most casual, nonchalant way I've ever seen. I mean, he's just tracking back at the wall and just kind of almost just like a little mini leap up and just reaches up and just grabs it. Like he's reaching back over the wall. He is robbing a home run. There is no doubt about it. And he's just kind of like, yeah, it was fine. No like super serious tracking down, no scaling the fence, nothing like that. Just, had it the whole way. Nope, no problem. I mean, it's just a good reminder, I think, of Blake Perkins, how good he is defensively to make a very difficult play seem so routine, so nonchalant. Robbing a home run, I don't care how high the fence is, I don't care what it is, like, it's not easy to be able to be right at the wall like that and make that kind of a catch. His defense is elite out there in the outfield. That is why he is on this team. The struggles offensively certainly have been there. He gets an RBI and a hit by pitch with the bases loaded in this one. Certainly he was probably hoping for a chance to actually swing away and see something fall and be kind of productive that way. But still, Blake Perkins remains an elite defender in the outfield. And that is why he is on this team. That is why he will have that kind of leash that Pat Murphy is willing to give him to figure things out offensively. He's never going to be a great offensive player, but he's a switch hitter, and he can be decent enough at the plate that having his defense out there makes it worthwhile to have him on the team and in the lineup from time to time. He's a 4th outfielder for sure. I mean, he's not going to be a regular starter with his skill set, but that defense is still elite out there in the outfield, and that is why you're going to continue to see Blake Perkins on this team. And I think another player that fans certainly want to continue to see on this team is Bryce Turang. And they'd like to see it for several years going into the future because Turang just continues to get better. I mean, since August, seemingly, of last year, he has just been on an absolute tear. He's been a seemingly otherworldly hitter, just continues to be able to hit for power, hit for average, providing elite defense at second base. It is everything that you could want in a player. It is everything that the Brewers should want. It is everything that they have targeted. It is everything that their philosophy has been centered around for years now. Starting with the David Stearns, acquire, develop, retain controllable young talent. And retain is that third part there. Okay, they acquired Turang in the draft. They developed him into the stud that he is now. And it'd be nice to retain him. He still has a couple years of team control through arbitration, yes. But what about an extension? That has been the much talked about point here, because if you're looking at extension candidates on this team, Bryce Turang is going to be at the top of basically everybody's list. Okay, some may still have Contreras at the top of their list, but I digress. Bryce Turang is at the top of my list to be that next guy to get an extension. So Kurt Hogue of the Journal-Sentinel, good friend, put a piece out there on the Journal-Sentinel talking to Turang about an extension and if talks are ongoing, what's been going on there. So I wanted to talk about it here. And Turang, he does give kind of some boilerplate stuff. It's like, oh yeah, everyone's, every player is interested in it. We're always open ears to extension talks, things like that. He said that the Brewers have had extension talks with him in the past, but nothing crazy, he said. And also last offseason, which is when you would think extension talks would pick up, Turang said, no, nothing in terms of that, no, happening last year. So that tells me that the Brewers already recognize his price tag is out of their price range. That's what I'm reading from this, because Turang also said, and Kurt wrote this as well, the window for a team-friendly deal is shut. It's done, gone, bye-bye. For any thoughts of a team-friendly deal for Turang to stay because he loves it here so much, not going to happen. Turang said, quote, "It would take the right amount." The right amount, okay? That is going to be market value kind of amount. That's what it is. I mean, he's not going to tell you everything that's going on, but certainly it gives the indication that it is going to be a fair market value kind of deal. And if the Brewers didn't really engage with him, if that is true, if he's telling the whole story there, Turang, that is, if the Brewers really didn't strongly engage Turang in extension talks last offseason, that tells me they already know that he's going to cost way too much. He's going to cost more than what they are willing to offer him, what they are perhaps capable of offering him, however you want to look at it that way. But Turang is so good as a player, and we see these extensions for these other second basemen that are out there. And Kurt predicted it in his piece, 5 years, $90 million. I think that's probably a bit on the low end. If it were 5 years, $90 million, I think the Brewers would have done this yesterday. I think this would already be done if 5 years, $90 million would have been what it takes. I mean, when you see some of these other second basemen signing 9-figure deals when they're into the $100 million range, I think Turang's going to be the same kind of deal. It's going to take that kind of money to extend Bryce Turang. And I'm not sure if the Brewers are simply looking at it where it's like, okay, that's just going to cost too much, we're not going to do it. Or also, we have a billion other infield prospects in this system that are close to big league ready that we may just want to go with instead. You have the Jesus Maddés, you have Cooper Pratt, who you just signed to a team-friendly extension. You have Luis Pena, you have Jet Williams that you acquired from the Mets. You've got a bunch of other guys after that. I mean, you got Andrew Fisher, you got Brock Wilken, you got Blake Burke. Those guys aren't middle infielders, but still, those other middle infielders may push them to the corners because odds are one of Maddé or Pratt are getting moved to third base for the time being here. So, does that move Fisher or Wilken to first base? You got to find ways for all this group to work. And granted, all this will work itself out based on performance as time goes along here. But when you have all those guys locking in Bryce Turang to one of those infield spots for the next 5, 6, 7 years, that's going to make it even tougher to find the rest of those pieces of the puzzle to fit. So they may look at it as like, hey, look, we're going to love Turang here for as long as he's here. But with these other guys coming up, we can afford to let him go in a couple of years. So that could be part of it as well. I think it's unfortunate because personally, I really don't think any of these guys that the Brewers have in the minors, with perhaps the exception of Jesus Made, are going to be as good as Turang is. Like, I think Made certainly has the ceiling to be, but Cooper Pratt probably is not going to be as good offensively as Bryce Turang. I don't think he's going to be a potential 30-30 guy. I don't think he has necessarily the power for it. I just don't see that offensive potential in there. I don't necessarily see that offensive potential in Luis Pena. I don't see it in Jet Williams. So when you're looking at the rest of this group, I mean, who are really going to be your best guys? I mean, Made is probably the closest one, but Turang is giving you this production now. He has proven that he can have this kind of production at the big league level. So I hate that. I would love to see the Brewers extend him still. I understand why they aren't necessarily looking to it. And perhaps this is something that a salary cap and floor system, if it were implemented, could also change the calculus on. Because if the Brewers have to spend another $30 million each and every season in order to hit that salary floor, you may be more willing to pay Bryce Turang what it is that he's looking for. So that's something that can all get worked out in the future. Turang is still under team control for several years, but it is tracking like Bryce Turang is not going to get an extension here from the Brewers. Now, this may be kind of old news to most of you, but still, to hear Turang's perspective on it and what he's been saying, well, like to get the latest update from him, just kind of paints a bit of a clearer picture as to how things are looking. So enjoy Bryce Turang while he's in a Milwaukee Brewers uniform. You don't know how long it's going to be. I would love to see an extension, but this article from Kurt over at the Journal-Sentinel does kind of dampen the hopes there for Bryce Turang to end up getting an extension. But we shall see, and we will continue to see what ends up happening there as we cover this team all season long on Brewers Daily. So be sure to subscribe, get notified every single time a new episode drops. And if you're so inclined, drop a review on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, wherever it is that you're enjoying Brewers Daily. Drop a review. I'd love to see it. And if you've made it this long, maybe it'd be a 5-star review. Who's to say? Follow me on Twitter as well at dgasper24. Appreciate all of you watching and listening, and we'll see you again tomorrow for another episode of Brewers Daily.